Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this online workshop today. Nice of you all to join me on a Saturday. That's very, yeah, I feel, so we're under kind of bit of isolation, social isolation here as well in the UK with my family. So I'm coming to you from the solar powered garden shed at the bottom of my garden. So it's wonderful to have your company. It's a lovely sunny day. So that means that this workshop is 100% renewable powered. So there's a little feather in the cap for all of us there. Okay, so we are going to crack straight on. We've got a lot to get on in these 2 hours. So here's the agenda for today. So we're just going to have a bit of housekeeping and check-in. So I'll let you know about how we're going to conduct this workshop today. Followed by a short video to demonstrate the C3S Edu Demo tool. I've looking down the name of participants here. I can see that some of you are fairly familiar with the tool already and are just looking to brush up on your skills, and I can see our names are quite new here, so that will kind of be a very good way of get everybody caught up to the same level. And then we're going to use a little task when you use Zoom polls to explore a little bit more and quiz you and see if you can find the answers to certain tasks using the demonstrator. And for the teachers here, or for those of you who are looking to use the education demo as an outreach application, we'll kind of explore some of the links to the syllabuses, to national and international syllabuses, which this can help you with. We're going to take a short break for the last 5 minutes, and then we'll look into some group work, particularly some inquiry-based learning. So we're going to use Zoom's breakout rooms tool to get you into smaller groups and to have a little bit of discussion amongst yourselves about how we can use the Edu Demo for inquiry-based learning. And then we'll do a little bit of reflection evaluation, because we always want to improve, and then we will check out. So let's start with a little bit of just a little bit of housekeeping here as well. Also, if you are on social media, obviously we like to document everything we do and to promote the work that we do. So, and a very, very good way of sharing this tool and sharing your experiences, if you just like to tweet or share something on social media, please do use the hashtag C3S Edu WEMC. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you are not contributing verbally, please can you keep your microphone muted? That's just Okay, so let's all check in then. What I'd like for everybody to do, please, is if you can go to the chat function, the Zoom chat function, and just give yourself and say hi to everybody. Your name, your job title. If if you're happy to put your school down, you can, or you can just put that you're a high school teacher at, in the UK. That's absolutely fine. And then just a sentence on what you hope to get out of this workshop, or one way you might use any interactive tool to promote climate and energy science. So if you can all do that. Now, if any of you are brave enough to, contribute verbally, you can raise your hand via the participant tab, and then you can introduce yourself verbally. So if you want to crack on with that through the chat function. So Andreas gets the gold star for getting in there first.
Hello, good.
Andreas, you are more than welcome to introduce yourself verbally.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. It's Andreas Kazantzidis from University of Patras, from the Laboratory of Atmospheric Physics, member of the Copernicus Academy, and with the students we are preparing a lot of events for also for lower grades students from high schools. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Andreas. Andreas and I know each other very, very well. We collaborate very well. And so Andreas is kind of leading the Greek front with some PhD students with the Edu Demo. So it's absolutely delighted to have here and there. So we have another person who's very happy. So Olga, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, nice to hear you all. I'm a teacher from Poland. I teach in high school, both the national curriculum and the international baccalaureate system. So climate change, very strong point of my curriculum as long as it's IB. So
thank you.
Great opportunity to talk about professional development and new tools.
Thank you
Nice to
very
meet
much.
you all.
Nice to meet you too. Yes, and so in the chat there, Shelley, thank you. Wow, okay, Shelley. So thank you very much for joining us all the way from there. And also, as some of you may be here for as well, is not just to learn about the tool itself. I know one or two of you are here also to see how online remote learning may happen, and this is not like the perfect example by all means, but what I do with this can give you maybe some ideas with regards to how you might approach online and remote learning, given the current situation that we're all in at the moment. Okay, continue to please sign in when I'm on the next step. So here is the link to the tool. So please do open a different browser tab or screen or whatever and get yourself onto that now. You'll notice that you'll need to sign in to use the tool. Don't be afraid of that. There's nothing nefarious. And as the little description kind of says there, the reason why we're doing that is because it is, as the title of the tool suggests, it is a demo case, which means it's what we're doing here is we're developing something which can demonstrate how to utilize something and how to develop something. So in this case, we're showing how we can visualize data obtained from the Copernicus data store and how we can make it visually accessible and interactive for particularly high school students. So that's why it's demo case. And of course, we need to collect data to see how much people are using it, what types of people are using it. So purely the sign up is really mostly so we can collect this demographic data. There is a checkbox for you to opt in to future updates, and that's the only way that we would use your information to contact you. But apart from that, all it is for is to make sure we're tracking, who does what. So off you go. Let's get on that straight away. Right. So some teachers who have joined us today may be already aware of this tool. This is something that you can use with your students in the classroom. It is also something that you can use with your students remotely, as I'm about to demonstrate right now. So recommendation here, do this on your smartphone if you can, because that leaves your computer screen free to do what you're doing with the demonstrator tool at the moment. So all you do is you go to www.menti.com, and then it will prompt you for this code. So the code there is 728902, and then you'll be asked for 3 questions here. So I'm just going to bring that up on my screen so you can see here. Here we go. So menti.com 728902. And as you respond to those 3 prompts, you'll see that the results will appear on my screen. So how confident are you in these 3 things? How confident are you in teaching, engaging in outreach about climate and energy issues? So any climate or energy related issues. Using GIS interactive map tools in your teaching or outreach activities. And then the third one there, using the C3S Edu Demo specifically at this very moment. So right now at the start of the workshop. Okay, and as you can see, as the results come in, the continuum here starts to get populated. That is awesome. Now, the thing I really, really do like about Menti, as I say, we're not affiliated, any of the tools that we're using today, we're not affiliated with, we don't get any commission, nothing like that. This is purely what we found works for us. So we're not trying to sell anybody anything at all. I've used Menti quite a lot when I was a high school teacher, and what I really love about Menti is not only do you get this average score, so 8 people now have voted so far, but we know that the kind of the average score can hide things, but you can see behind, it gives you the spread of how people are feeling as well. So this is a very good way of demonstrating statistics to your students, particularly if they're doing field work, say, activities, and they're using questionnaires or whatnot. So here you go. So people are fairly confident about teaching, engaging in outreach activities about any energy climate issue. Some people, we've got one person who's very confident, mostly confident, and we've got a couple who are not. So a little bit more of a bimodal kind of distribution here about GIS interactive map tools. If you're not sure what GIS stands for, it stands for Geographical Information Systems. It's all teachers, particularly geography teachers here, will be very, very aware of what that means in a teaching context. And this is not surprising, this distribution here, because we do have some people here who are quite familiar with the tool already, and actually we've been working with to help develop it. It's lovely for you to join us, because if I play it right later with the group work, maybe I can distribute the people who are more familiar with the people who are less familiar. We'll see how that goes. That comes later. And the 7 who have said they're not very confident, I'm guessing you are here for the first time and seeing this for the first time. So that's not a surprising result there. So there we go. Mentimeter.com is this tool we've used here. And the clever thing, of course, is that these are now benchmark ratings. So we're going to come back to this at the end of the workshop. And if I've done my job properly, hopefully I can get this up here. We'll see. Right. Okay, so let us now move on to a little short demonstration video, and then I'm going to get you going on a quiz. This is 8 minutes long, but what it does do, it just takes you on a whistle-stop demonstration of the tool, and it gives one example of how you can apply the tool in an educational context. So while you're watching this, feel free to continue listening to it in the background and playing with the tool yourself, or follow along with the tool if you're lucky enough to have 2 screens. Or, if you feel, I just need to quickly, nip out for a comfort break or boil the kettle for a cup of tea, whatever, okay? And then the interactive stuff will start in pretty much 8 minutes time after this. Here we go. This is the Climate and Energy Education Demonstrator, a tool developed to allow you to explore climate and energy variables from historical data to future projections. This tool will show you how the main functions of the demonstrator works and give some examples of how it can be used in a learning environment. When the tool first loads, you are presented with a globe showing the latest historical average annual temperature for Europe, instinctively showing blues for cooler areas and reds for warmer ones. Under the variable icons, you can change how the data is displayed on the map and on the graph with these filters. For the currently displayed variable, you can also download the data as a CSV file and a PDF fact sheet which gives you interesting information, facts, a mini case study and glossary. During this demo, you'll see some of these features in action, but let's start by showing you how we can get an even finer spatial scale to look at temperature spatial patterns across Europe. The pattern of average annual temperatures has become even clearer, and you can even see the differences within countries very, very clearly. When we move the mouse cursor to hover over an area, its data point will pop up as a tooltip. The legend in the bottom right is also dynamic and has been designed to interpret the map. Notice as I move the mouse cursor over the map, an area's data value appears in the legend over the corresponding color category. This feature will help users to understand how CorePath mapping works, and this demonstrates that the tool can be used to practice graphical skills as well as messages that come from analysing the data itself. Let's have a closer look here in the bottom right at one of the most powerful but simple functions of the tool, the slider. Notice that the left side is coloured and the right side is hashed. That's because the tool can cycle through historical data, currently 1979 to 2016, but also onto projected data onto the future and climate models up to 2100. In one simple click or drag to the end of the slider, we can learn one very important message. Ready? Keep an eye on the map. Notice how there are fewer blues and more reds and even darker reds on the map. Instinctively, we can tell from the map that Europe is projected to warm during this century. This map is now showing projected annual average temperatures for 2100 under a high carbon emission scenario. Again, just using a single click, we can explore changes to a deeper level. Let's take the Swiss Alps, for instance. Now the graph is showing how the selected variable changes in time, from recent past into the future, and lo and behold, it only needs a quick glance to see that indeed warming is not only expected to take place, but the historical record, represented by the orange line, clearly shows that warming has already been occurring. The blue and purple lines show the changes in temperature based on climate models, purple under a high carbon emission scenario and blue a low carbon emission scenario. You'll notice there is some information above the graph, giving you some highlight figures. The temperature for the Swiss Alps, averaging out the whole temperature record between 1981 and 2010, was 3.36 degrees Celsius. We call this the long-term mean, and you can see that represented by the dashed orange line on the graph. But no matter what the emission scenario, low or high, you can see those blue and purple lines rise above that average figure. The tool can display more than just temperature. It can plot a number of other climate variables and some energy ones too. The other variables are wind speed at 10 meters in height, total precipitation, solar radiation, solar PV energy, electricity demand, and wind energy. Let's have a quick look at one of the energy variables, electricity demand. Here we can see the historical patterns of electricity demands across Europe and what they are projected to be based on different energy scenarios. The ability to change the temporal scale for any one of the climate and energy variables can help us to explore patterns even further. Changing from annual to seasonal, for example, shows us how electricity demand changes between different seasons, and this can help spark investigations on why this might be the case. Dragging over an area of a graph allows you to zoom in and explore the differences in data a little bit more closely. So, those are the basics, and I think you'll agree that even though we are yet to play around with other variables, options and filters, you can already learn quite a lot. So, what might this learning look like? Well, the tool is designed to allow teachers to set their own learning objectives. It is essentially a geographical information system, or GIS, and so lends itself perfectly to inquiry-based learning in particular. So let's have a think about this inquiry question. Will extreme weather events today become the norm in the future? Now, one approach to this question is to look at the data from one or more extreme weather events that students may have studied. Since the tool allows us to explore historical data on a daily scale, we can see their signals clearly on both the map and the graph. The 2003 European heatwave, for example, was exceptional and deadly, resulting in 70,000 deaths, with the country of France suffering particularly. What is worth noting, and really quite incredible, is that these are average temperatures for each 24-hour period during the heatwave, so it includes the relative cool of nighttime. In fact, daytime temperatures broke 40 degrees Celsius in France. But could this abnormal extreme weather event, such as heat waves like this, ever become normal in the future? Well, let's average out the temperatures by season and look particularly at summer. There is that summer of 2003. Wow, that is a very clear extreme heat signal in the data. Now, if we look at temperature anomalies, which is the difference compared to the 1981 to 2010 average temperature, we can see that the summer of 2003 in France was 3.25 degrees Celsius warmer than average. So, the question is, when will similar temperatures become a frequent, almost year-to-year occurrence? Well, the graph makes it very clear to see. So by the 2070s, under a high carbon emission scenario, a summer like the one in 2003 could be seen every year, and beyond that, even warmer. And although the low emission scenario temperatures on average don't quite get there, they certainly will mean such extreme weather events will become more normal and more frequent. Now, no matter what European country we click on, we can see the same warming trend. So we can conclude that the extreme heat wave events that have been taking place in Europe recently, such as those in 2003, or even more recently last summer, are projected to become normal conditions by the 2070s. Thanks for watching, and we hope you're now really looking forward to giving the tool a go yourself. Okay. So I hope you found that useful. So I'm going to let you loose now on the tool itself, and about 20 minutes is what I'm going to give you here. And during this time, please feel free to raise your hand to make a comment, ask me a question. You can do it in the chat if you don't want to be verbal. That's absolutely fine whatsoever. But here's the little catch. So I'm going to now launch a Zoom poll Oh, okay. I'm unable to do that. Okay, we will switch to a backup here. What I'm going to do instead, therefore, is that I'm going to put questions up on the screen and see if you can find the answer to these questions as you're using the tool. So there's going to need to be, because I think I know what the problem is there about why I can't launch the poll, but that's not a problem. So what I would have done in usually at this stage is logged into Zoom polls. Now, if you're going to use Zoom poll as a polling or a quiz with students or with your participants, the one bug that we found with Zoom is that if more than one person logs in as a host, so if you're sharing a host account, for example, for some reason it stops the poll system from working. I think that's what might have happened here. Someone at some point might have logged in as a host. So never mind, you know, bugs happen with these kind of systems, but I have been prepared just in case that happens. So I'm going to show the questions on the screen. And unfortunately, the only difference here is that it won't be self-paced because I'm going to have to flick through the questions at a reasonable time. If you don't keep up, don't worry about it. This is really just a bit of fun and just a way of trying to get you to signpost you towards using certain functions of the tool. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've never done this before online. I do it all the time in classrooms. Can you please raise your hand to state that you are logged in to the C3S Edu tool? So if you go into the participant function and raise your hand, see, I would do this in class and I would see all of the students' hands go up in front of me. So excellent, 2, okay. So and keep them raised until I say put them down. Awesome, yeah, good. Okay, so the first question is, how many variables can you explore using the Edu Demo? Is it 6? Where's 3 climate, 3 energy? 6, 4 climate, 2 energy, 7 variables, 4 climate, 3 energy, or 7 variables, 5 climate, 2 energy? I'm going to move on very, very quickly with which should be the correct answers. So this one, hopefully you found the correct answer quite quickly. So if you go to the top of the screen, you'll see all the variables there. So the answer is 7. There are 4 climate and 3 energy variables. So as you saw I won't go through them because you saw them on the demo, and also you saw them on, you can see them at the top there. Okay, question 2. So using the slider, I'll give you a bit of a hint. Here we go. So using the slider, currently from which year does the data displayed on the map switch from historical to projected data based on models? So is it 2011 onwards do you get projected, 2017 onwards, or 2020 onwards? Okay, so with these quote unquote light questions, we'll move on a bit quicker with these ones. I'll give you more time for the ones require a little bit more exploring. So the answer's been given away by the screenshot there. So when you load in, 2016 is the first data set that's loaded up, because that's the current data set we're working on at the moment, and that's up to the latest historical. So anything from 2017 onwards is projected data. So we are developing, we are continuously developing, and one of the future plans that we have is to move to what we call an Era 5 data set that will not only have global coverage, which would be amazing for those of you who are here outside of Europe, but also we'll have more up-to-date historical information too. So keep an eye out. So remember, this is a demo case, so we've used the data available to us, this Era interim data, to show what the tool is capable of doing. So watch this space. Okay, I'll give you a little bit more time with this one here. So, because it will get you to just explore on different things. So all variables on all temporal resolutions have data ranging from 1979 to 2100. So if you were to go into the tool and maybe change to a different temporal resolution, can you still go up to 2100? Right. So as you can see, I've tried to kind of aid your learning here by having some like animated screenshots here. So for those of you who are keen-eyed, and you are have been looking at my screen as well, you'll see that when you change to a temporal resolution to say down to daily, you can actually only go up to 2016, and that is due to for those, you know, for the meteorologists, climatologists know that you I think common sense knows that you can't really project data to say the 7th of February 2071, you know, because we're down at weather timescales in the climatic future. You know, maybe one day we'll have an algorithm of supercomputer to do that, but very unlikely. So therefore, your daily resolution, for example, will only have historical information. So that's to 2016. So the answer, therefore, is false. Right. Okay. So you can't cheat with this one. You can see I've hidden the answer on the screenshot here, but it does indicate how you would go about doing this. So what was the average annual temperature in Spain in 2016? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you're up for it, why don't you type the answer? Why don't you type the answer in the chat, some of you, just for a bit of fun. So is it 11.97 degrees Celsius? Is it 15.212 degrees Celsius, or is it 16.13? Okay. Right. So to get any data point for a specific timestamp, you could move the slider to that timestamp. So in this case, 2016. Obviously, we're looking at annual temperature, so that's what you've got selected on the tool. And all you do is you just hold your mouse over the area in question. So when you put your mouse over Spain in 2016 for annual temperatures, you get 15.12. Well done, everybody. Okay. So was this average higher or lower than the year before? Was this average higher or lower? I love that, Stavros. You've given almost a full answer in your answer. So sometimes we used to say that with our students. It's like put the question, formulate the question in your answer so we know what you're talking about. So was question 5, was this average in 2016 higher or lower than the year before? Okay, so then you can probably guess what you do now. You just shift the year back a year and then go over Spain again. You see what happens there. So what I'm demonstrating here is that you can shift the slider and the time backwards and forwards, and then you can visually see with the map and with the figures how things are changing, whether they're increasing, decreasing, getting higher, getting lower. You see how I'm just kind of coaching you through using a quiz. In the teaching realm, we call this assessment for learning. It's okay, you can change your answer if you wish. Right, so when you flick back 1 year from 2016 to 2015, then the year before was slightly higher, so therefore 2016's average was lower than 2015. So the year before in Spain was just that little bit warmer on average for the entire year. So these are average annual temperatures, which means the temperatures have been averaged out for the entire 365-day period, or 366 if it's a leap year, of course. Right, I'll give you a little bit more time with this one. We got 11 minutes before the end of the quiz, so I can give you a bit more time with this one. Question 6. So, what historically was the hottest year on average in Spain? So I've given you 3 options here, 1995, 2011, and 2015. Now you could find the answer by simply moving the slider to those 3 years and then hovering your mouse over Spain. But there's a quicker way of doing it. And the screenshot gives you a bit of a hint. But can you figure out how to get there? Whoa, first 3 answers, okay. So don't worry about getting the answers wrong. The point is not to get the answers right or wrong. The point is, what method did you take to try and find the answer? Right, okay, I'm actually going to bring up the tool and show you this one here, because a lot of you are saying 2015. So first of all, don't forget we are looking at yearly averages, so annual averages here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the tool here, and I'm going to go to, quite simply here, is click on Spain, And then what will happen, that will bring up Spain's graph on the right-hand side. So as I said, what we could do is that we could put the mouse over these. So we could go 2015, 15.28, 2011, 15.22, and then 2000, what was it, 1995, 15.16. And the other way of doing it, of course, is that you can hover your mouse over the graph and you can see 2015 is the highest. And I realized I've made a clerical mistake on this. I don't know why I've ticked 2011 because the answer was 2015. All right. Okay. So well done, everybody. Right, what was the temperature anomaly for that year in Spain? And as you're going to try and figure out this question yourself, I've just got an animation there to demonstrate how you access temperature anomalies. The reason why we decided to include temperature anomalies in the tool, because there has been some debate about whether it's suitable for young students, or, well, our argument was this. First of all, you start off with the basics, so it's a map of average annual temperatures, which is the very you can learn simple things from that about how the climate is changing in terms of average annual temperatures. That's something that I firmly believe, given my experience, that your average 11-year-old can learn, even younger. But we really wanted the ability for older students in particular to actually learn the way that scientists would look at the data, the scientists would look at temperatures. So we really wanted to make sure that we kept temperature anomalies onto the tool. So what a temperature anomaly is, for those of you who aren't aware, is when you take a time span, usually it's 30 years in climate. So you take 30 years and you work out that average. So for our tool and for most science, it's for our tool, we've used 1981 to 2010. So we take the average between 1981 and 2010, and then for each individual year, how much warmer or cooler was that individual year on average than the 1981 to 2010 average. We call that the long-term mean. So what was the difference between the historical long-term mean? And that's really important, because that's the way that science can look at it, because we know that temperatures are different all around the world for obvious reasons. So that's why we use temperature anomaly to see how temperatures are changing compared to its historical average. Very good thing for the older students, GCSE students, 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-olds, and then beyond into the higher schools, so 17, 18-year-olds. They really do need to understand the concept of temperature anomalies if they're doing subjects related to this. So no problems with the people who've decided to answer on the chat. So the answer is 0.99. So the way you do that, you change to temperature anomaly, and then you can either call up the map again, the graph again, and go to 2015. You'll see it says plus 0.99 degrees Celsius, or you can hover your mouse over Spain on 2015. So there we go. Well done with that. So 2015 on average was almost a degree warmer than the historical average. Right. Okay, these ones will require a little bit more investigation. So you want to change your variable to precipitation, and hopefully that's very instinctive if you look at the icons on the top. Figure out which one is precipitation, which is the proper term for things that fall out of the sky as rain, snow, sleet, and hail. So collectively we call that precipitation. And then when you investigate the future trends, so click on different areas of Europe, what do you notice? What's the trend that you notice going forward? So which of these statements is untrue? Which of these statements is untrue? So when you click around the Mediterranean countries, they are projected to get wetter over time. Is that true, or is that false? Or countries in Northern Europe are projected to get wetter. So if you, which one of those is untrue? So let's go back here. So we're going to, and so what you can do here, you can either leave it on absolute values or you can change it to anomalies. What the good thing about changing it to anomalies is you get a line through 0, as you can see there. So it's a lot clearer to see whether things are dropping below that line or above that line or staying along that line. So Spain, it seems to me it's staying quite close, or if not slightly dropping So getting slightly drier in Spain. Let's see, but could that be an outlier? So we want the students to check other places as well. So what about Portugal? Similar with Portugal. What about Italy? Very inconclusive. It's pretty much staying the same-ish, maybe a teeny weeny bit wetter. Don't forget this at the top can help you as well. So this region's annual temperature, so the long-term mean historically was this, but under a high emission scenario, between these 30 years, it could be this. So actually there's a drop there, so drier. What about Albania? Oh, Albania's expected to get wetter in terms of these here, kind of. But now looking at the Northern Europe, oh, okay, the trend's a little bit clearer if we click on Northern Europe. So Norway is projected to get wetter. Sweden, most certainly. What about the United Kingdom? Slightly. So there you go. So Northern Europe is, according to climate projections, Northern Europe is projected, its annual precipitation projected to get a little bit wetter, whereas the Mediterranean is either expected to kind of roughly stay the same or even get drier. So therefore, the untrue statement is the top one there. Right, whereas the bottom statement is true. Okay. Let's have a look at these energy variables now. So which two countries were the first to produce solar PV energy as mapped by the demonstrator? So we know that statistics, people compile statistics from different sources, but from the demonstrator, from our tool, if we were to go back here in time, what appears to be the first to develop to produce solar PV energy? Was it Germany and Switzerland, Italy and Spain, or Switzerland and Italy? So my suggestion here is you go to solar PV and you go back far enough time where the map's completely grey, which means according to our demonstrator, no country is producing a significant amount of PV energy, shall we say. You keep flicking forward in time, countries will start to light up as they start to produce significant levels of solar, and then there will be your answer. But you are right though, Stavros. So it is Italy and Spain. So yeah, so when you just flick forward in time, you'll notice that the first two countries that light up are Spain and Italy. Now it doesn't mean Spain and Italy were the first to produce solar PV energy. It's just that our first number that gets mapped on the demonstrator is 0.1 terawatt hours, and they're the first. So to be more accurate, they were the first two countries in Europe to produce more than 0.1 terawatt hours of solar PV in a year. Right, and finally, so we're out of time now, but if you want to have a quick go, it's up to you, but we do need to move on. So question here, and again, this takes a bit of time because it's more kind of investigation work. So across Europe, most of Europe, under which of these energy models scenario projected to greatly increase the electricity demand? So the way you would work this one out, as the question suggests, you would go to electricity demand, and then what should happen is that you then get an extra function on the tool. So let me just bring that up here. So if we go to electricity demand, we have an extra button that appears up here, which is energy models. So if I say click on France, for example, I mean, the United Kingdom is the one there, but if we click on France, you can see we've got historical electricity demand, and this is projected assuming a future of large-scale renewable and storage. And these are based on some energy models from the E-Highway 2050 program led by ENTSO-E. So what do you then do? You then explore around Europe, cycling between 100% renewable and fossil fuels. So using France as an example, the E-Highway 2050 model of 100% renewable has France's electricity demand increasing to about 750 terawatts by 2065. But if on the fossil and carbon capture nuclear model, it increases all the way up there. So there'll be more electricity demand in France following a fossil and carbon capture nuclear. That's generally the pattern across most of Europe. It is different place in Europe, but that's generally the pattern. So once you've had if you were to have 5-10 minutes to investigate that, you would have come to the conclusion that that fossil fuel carbon capture nuclear energy scenario would have led to increased electricity demand over time, more electricity demand over time. And of course, a good discussion with students and people studying this kind of thing. Well, why would that be the case if we were to you know, go down this route in the future? Why would our electricity demand be higher than if we were to be under renewable? You know, very good source of discussion. It's that's a bit outside of my expertise, but maybe some of you could tell me. Right, absolutely awesome. So what we're going to do now, before I move on, if anybody's have any comments, wants to type a comment, or if anybody wants to raise their hand and give some verbal feedback at this stage about how they found that. I know you're not going to not learn this tool just in the blue in 20 minutes. And of course, I'm taking you through very quickly almost every single thing that this tool can do. Now, of course, when you're going to be using this with, say, your students or for an outreach activity, it's, you know, you may try to, but most of the time you may only have 1 or 2 goals or 1 or 2 learning objectives. So you'll only be focusing on 1 or 2 aspects of the tool. So I appreciate that I've really taken you through very quickly, like pretty much almost everything you can do on this. The only thing I hadn't shown you, of course, which you're welcome to come back to at your other time, is that when you're able to download the data from the graph, for example, so then you can do your own analysis using Microsoft Excel or something. You can also download the data here. So this map here of average annual temperatures, if you click on that button, it'll download the map. And the other thing that we do as well, which you might find useful, is that if you click on this button, you get a lovely fact sheet, student speak fact sheet about that variable. So I had air temperature selected, for example, and it gives you just a summary there. One thing which you might find useful is that we've done as well, is that we've done some critical thinking data smart thing on every variable fact sheet, which kind of helps students to understand why they've got to be careful using data and being careful with units, with scale, and making sure they're checking their figures, etc. like that. So we just thought we'd bung that in to find if you find that useful too. Right. So when you signed up for this workshop, one thing that I recommended that you do was that if you're a teacher, if you had to hand the syllabus that you teach or syllabi that you teach. And if you're not a teacher, if you kind of do outreach work and you effectively leave that kind of thing to the teacher where they will link it to your syllabus. I've just got a couple of links here that you might find useful. Now, if you go into the Padlet, in fact, if I kind of like put these, so if I go into the Padlet and I kind of copy these links here for you into the chat, then you can go directly to these links here. So if I go in the chat here, so there's a couple of links there for you. And for those of you who are focusing on sciences and mathematics, there's a couple of links for you there as well. So I don't need to say this to teachers, but top tip for any of you who do outreach work with teachers, the best thing to do is to always ask the teacher the students you're working with, say, what are they learning? What syllabus are they using? What's their learning objective? Because then that gives you a bit of a tie-in. So we're very, very good at trying to get our word out there, and as academics and experts out and scientists, we really do want to take our work out into the public and into high schools, but you really do need to ensure that you're tethering it to what the students are learning at that stage. And of course, teachers, if you're going to work with people who come in and talk to you, then you really would be helpful to them if you supply them with we're learning about this, or this is what they need to know by the end of your talk or the end of your workshop or whatever. And pinning it to your syllabus is one way of doing that. So have a look at your syllabus that you've got in front of you. If you don't have it in front of you, then I'm sure you know where to get it. So you could log into your website, the exam board's website, and then just go to your syllabus in there. I've just got some examples here from the UK GCSEs here. So there's a few. There's 5 examples. There's AQA, EdExcel, EduCAS, OCR as well, and WeJEC. So they are the main examples here. And what I've done here is that I've put everything I could think of the way that you could use this tool for. So one thing I didn't put in here, which I should have left in here, was actually ecosystems. You could actually use this tool to teach about ecosystems, about biomes, because of course, the inputs into a biome, the kind of the temperature and precipitation that makes up those aspects of biomes and ecosystems. You can get the data, particularly from Europe, you can get the data off the tool. to learn about ecosystems and biomes, so I should have really left it in there. You may be surprised to see river processes, glacial process, that stuff. Well, yes, of course, because an input to these systems again is precipitation and temperature. So again, you can get the figures from the tool from this, but there are obviously the most obvious ones, and I've put those ones in bold. So so weather hazards, climate change are the obvious ones. If your syllabus covers energy resources and energy supply insecurity, renewable energy, they are obviously obvious syllabus links there. And here in the UK, there's a massive focus on skills. So there's 4 skills that students need to learn here: cartographic GIS skills, graphical skills, numeral skills, statistical skills. Well, this tool can cover every single one of those. So obviously GIS skills, because you're using a GIS, it's an interactive map with data underlying it, which you can layer data over it. Graphical skills, because you can call up the graph, and then you can and then you can look at the graph there. Numerical skills and statistical skills. Well, statistical, using data anomalies rather than absolute values is a way into that one. But also statistics and numerical skills. Well, download the data and then get the students to manipulate, process, analyze the data themselves. So you can see how it's not just topic based. It's not just about climate and energy, but it can also work on student skills also. Right, so what we'll do before our break is I would like you to use the chat function here, and I'd like you please to have a little, just note on the chat how you would use the tool, either as someone who's doing outreach or as a teacher, and if you could actually state the part of the syllabus that you would use. So maybe you could just type out the learn objective or the part or the content requirement, whatever it is. Even better if, you can say that this is for AQA GCSE if we talk about UK, or maybe the national standards in France, whatever it is. If you could actually state what the syllabus you're referring to, that would be absolutely fantastic. You don't have to, you can quite simply write the learning objective or the content requirement from your syllabus there. So as you're doing that, as you're typing it up on your chat, copy and paste from the syllabus document. If you so wish, you find it on the syllabus document, copy and paste it over, no problem at all. You can do that. So as you're doing that, I'll just let you know that one example, we've got a colleague of mine here in Norfolk, Frances Billin. She's head of geography at Attleborough Academy in Norfolk, and she's recently done a year 10, that's 9th grade, 14, 15-year-olds. She's recently done a decision-making exercise lesson with her year 10s, and the title she used was, "Should the UK make investments in solar panels or wind turbines as a method to mitigate against climate change?" And then that linked into, I think she does AQA, the AQA syllabus in geography, and that quite nicely links into renewable energy and mitigation against climate change. That ticks her syllabus boxes for those ones there. If in your syllabus, particularly science and geography syllabuses, you teach about the global circulation and solar radiation patterns, we've got a demonstration video that you can access via the tools resource button. I'll show you that in a second. So solar radiation patterns across Europe. So you can see how we can use the tool to show how solar radiation patterns vary across Europe, but also across seasons. And more specific about climate change, you can look at the different carbon emission scenarios, and we've got a video about that as well. So I'm going to leave you with that for a couple more minutes. Okay, so as you're doing that, so for those of you who don't teach and do more outreach kind of stuff, a really good bet, if you're formulating something for an outreach activity, a really good bet is to use an international baccalaureate syllabus. So as I put the links there, there's a science one and a mathematics one there. But if I show you the geography international baccalaureate here, you can't go, if you base it on an international baccalaureate, you can't really go wrong, because many national syllabuses kind of run a lot of their stuff in parallel or tether from an international baccalaureate, because there's a lot more demand for the international baccalaureate nowadays. So for example here, Unit 2, Global Climate, Vulnerability and Resilience, you can see here how a natural and human process affect the global climate balance. So there's a lot of things here. So we can talk about the global energy balance using our solar radiation functions, for example, you know, how it's having an impact, not just so the effect on places here, instances of extreme weather events. So if you were to use the daily temporal resolution on our tool, as you saw in a demonstration video, you can actually look at individual climatic, individual weather events. So like the 2003 heat wave, for example, you can quite clearly see that spike in temperatures. And then if we move on to era 5, where we go up to more recent data and even more finer temporal resolutions, you'll be able to see clear signals for individual extreme weather events. And of course, that doesn't just go for temperature, that can go for extreme rainfall events leading to flooding, or extreme dry periods leading to drought. As you can see there, it says including drought. Okay, thank you, Olga, and thank you, Carmen, for your contributions there. Yeah, using it for extracurricular activities, that's a great idea. I mean, you know, you will be able to find links in with your actual syllabus itself to teach your core content, but extracurricular is a fantastic way of using this tool because you've got freedom of what you want to do with your extracurricular work. So having a science club, geography club, climate change club, maybe you've got a group of students who have formulated their own you know, school strike for climate group or something along those lines. You can support them and show them how to use this tool. Even better, get the students to teach everybody else how to use this tool. I mean, we've all got students who will look at this and within 5 minutes work it out more than we will ever be able to. So thank you, Heidi. So yeah, Heidi's saying we're actually rewriting our Key Stage 3, which is 11 to 14-year-olds, and hoping to embed tools like this, which is absolutely fantastic stuff. Right. I'm going to leave you with a break very, very shortly. So I'm going to give you 2 more minutes for anyone to contribute there or stick their hand up and say something verbally. That is an absolute excellent connection there, Carmen, isn't it? Yes. So Carmen is saying we knew about this tool thanks to a student's parent who works with Copernicus, which is absolutely brilliant. And of course, yes, the whole idea of this tool is to bring the amazing work that Copernicus and the Copernicus Climate Change Service do, and all the data they provide, and all the scientists that contribute to it, is to try and make this all accessible to students and the general public. And the fact that you're here in this workshop and you're so keen to work with this is absolutely amazing. And you are the link, you know, you participants here, you are the link between this massive effort the scientists are putting in the Copernicus project and getting this information out there to the general populace. Okay, so I'm aware that in the current climate, excuse the pun there, we are probably working in front of our screens more than we usually would be. So what I would want to ensure is that we all get a bit of a break from our screens. Now, this is a little bit gimmicky, I understand. We are not affiliated with Nuffield Health, but this is almost 5 minutes long, absolute perfect time to take a break. So if you feel like you need a stretch and a bit of an office-based workout, you can follow along on this video, but probably you'll do what I'm about to do, is nip out for a comfort break and rebrew another cup of tea, and then we will resume in about 5 minutes time. And then what we will do is that we'll do a bit of group work where we can all chat to each other in smaller groups a little bit more and explore the tool as a small group. So you've got until the end of this video, and I'll see you in about 5 minutes time. Right, hello there, everybody. So we are going to, I hope you have a little bit of a nice break. You just gave yourself a bit of a stretch. I mean, I wouldn't have done every single one of those, but I did just quickly, the benefit of being in the garden office, I did just step out in the garden and have a bit of a breather, and as the kettle was boiling, and just did a bit of a stretch. So a little bit more refreshed now. Before I can move on to the next bit and put you into groups, I'd like you all to, if you're present and back, I can see some people are away from their computers, which is absolutely no problem at all. We can give people a few more minutes. But as I start putting people into groups, I want to make sure that everyone is going to be active in these groups. So if you could raise your hand once you are ready to go, then I'll know who I can put into groups. So that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, so as I'm waiting for people to re-check in and raise their hands, so this is what we're going to do next. I'm going. This might be new to most of you, so we're going to be using Zoom breakout rooms now. And what we are going to do is that I'm going to give you a list of inquiry questions on the next screen. And what I strongly recommend you do is that with the next screen, when you go into your breakout rooms, you actually lose my feed, because then you take the feed over from each other. Is that what I strongly recommend you do when the next screen pops up with the spider diagram, is that you just take a screenshot or just take some image of any kind on that so you can refer to it. Zoom doesn't allow the function of you being able to view the host screens as well as your breakout room screens. Maybe they'll have that function in the future, who knows. So you're going to choose an inquiry question from the list that I will give you. And then in your smaller groups, you're going to be in groups of 3-ish. You're going to get on the tool, and then I'd like you to be brave enough to see if you can discuss verbally with each other about how you would go about getting students to explore the tool to meet this inquiry, to answer this inquiry question. Okay, so for those of you who are returning now, if you could just raise your hand to signify that you're here with me and you're ready. Fantastic. So I want to start putting people who are here into the breakout rooms first, so we can move on. Okay, here comes the screen. Right, so this is the screen that you need to take the note of. So you could press print screen, you can use the snipping tool. If you're on a Windows machine, or not quite sure how you do it on a Mac, you can copy it there. Grab your smartphone, take a picture, whatever. But if you could make sure you take a copy of what you can see on the screen right now, that'd be fantastic, so you've got a reference to it. So here are your four choices. So have a think about this now while I'm waiting for people to come back. So there are 4 inquiry questions here that you may want to choose from when you get into your groups. So, is the climate changing the same everywhere? Are some parts of Europe more suitable for renewable energy than others? How does the pattern of electricity demand change throughout the year? When could the extreme weather events of today become the norm? Or if you want to, when you get into your smaller groups, please, by all means, come up with your own question. And then what I'd like you to do is that in the 20 minutes to 30 minutes that I'm going to give you, is use these prompts to have a good verbal discussion, and if you so wish, you can record them on the chat as well. You don't have to answer every single one of these 5 prompts. You may decide to focus on 1 or 2, or one more than the other. Like the teachers of you might want to really focus on what syllabus you're going to be doing, or what, so whatever. This is over to you now. You are going to take the lead in your small groups. Okay, Caroline, Heather, John, and Stavros. So if you could, so Stavros has already indicated that he's here. So Caroline, Heather, and John, I just need to see you indicate that you're with me and we're ready to go. If you could raise your hand. Otherwise, what I will do, I'll put you in a separate group to make sure everybody can get going. Right. So you'll get an invite for the breakout room. Please join that breakout room. And then what you would want to do as well is that when you're in that room, you can ask for my assistance. So there'll be a way of you inviting me, and then I'll get an alert on my screen which says such and such is asking for your assistance in this breakout room. So you can call me to your room, and then we can chat about things. Okay, right. So here we go. So I'm just going to start this function. I'll help facilitate your discussions here in this group. Unless I get called away. All right, so I'm just going to bring up the demonstrator. So let me know what your so what are you discussing at the moment? What's your topic? What topic have you decided? So okay, if John's not here, then we'll then I'll be your third person or your third wheel. Right. Okay. So I see you're doing about energy. Energy and seasons. Awesome. Okay. So I guess if I go to seasonal, all seasons here, so this is the energy demand. I'll be completely directed by you both. So so Shelley and Heather, I'll direct you. You can direct me. So what we've got here. So one thing you can do is that, so we're down to season, so you can see the historical. We see that France is here electricity. But if I was to zoom in, and the way I do this is to click and hold, and then drag over a period of time. You'll see that the graph can zoom in there, and then so we can see now we have this seasonal cycle here. So October, I mean, we're working on changing this. We're working on changing these labels. See, it says October there, to change that to autumn rather than saying October. But because of course this is a graph, the developers say it's going to be a bit tricky to do that. So October's, January's winter time, April spring, July summer. So you've got this lovely seasonal trend there. So what do we think? What do we think about the applications of the fact that we can do that?
I think the graph already very clearly shows how the patterns change. But do we have to narrow it down to one country?
Right. So so yeah, obviously, if you want to look at other countries, then you'd click on them individually, which is a limitation of the tool. Wow, what's that? That's Italy, April. Yeah. So spring there. Why is it highest energy in autumn? That's a very good question, Heather. I don't have an answer for you. We don't have one of the energy experts in here with us. So yeah, and that's of course is a limitation. However, what you can do, I suppose is a good point. What you can do though, Shelley, is that you can download the data here in the top right hand corner. So just to double check, we've got one of the things we want. I've kept asking that we should be doing is that it should be clearer to the user, because when this graph is shut, how do we know what we're seeing? You know, I'd like, you know, it'd be nice to have a title across here maybe which right. So, but what you can do is that if you click on download data at the top here, it will download all the data for all the countries for what's being displayed. So if we do that now, and this is another thing, again, don't forget, this is a demo case. This is just demonstrating what's possible. We want to change all this. We want to make this more user-friendly with proper names. We don't want it BG, we want it to say Bulgaria and all that kind of stuff. So what we've got here is that we've actually got all the data for all the countries for all the seasons. Yeah, but believe, this is quite powerful. But believe you me, what the raw file looked like when you get it from the original data file from the Copernicus data store, my goodness. So this is a slight improvement from there. At least we can identify the countries. So we've got Latvia, Lithuania, Italy, Ireland, and we do have a glossary on our project website. And the way you get to that is to go to the resources here, and there's a glossary kind of explaining this. But at least what you can do and identify, you know, September, so that's autumn there, winter, spring, summer, autumn. So you can actually get your students to work on this. And, you know, data analysis, of course, is a very good skill to learn. So you can get them to only filter by spring or only look at Estonia or, I mean, and then I can go to insert chart. So I can actually compare the two countries in that way. So you can see, but we hope that in future you'll be able to do that on the tool, that you can actually select more than one country and it will display more than one country on the graph. So you can compare them on the tool itself. But for the time being, you can certainly download the data, and so you see Switzerland's in blue, and Cheshire is in orange there, which so they have a higher. The seasonality is almost identical, but they use more energy in one place than the other. So how is this what you were referring to, Shelley?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I've done, for example, is that I downloaded the historical data for UK temperature, got the kids to plot that, and then part of their requirements for their syllabus is that they have to learn to do interpolation and extrapolation of data. So using the historical data only, could they, if they were to extrapolate that into the future, what could air temperatures on average in the United Kingdom be by 2100? So so that's how they're using that. And then we went back onto the tool and then see how our extrapolation compared with the two climate models and which one was it closest to. So we found that if you extrapolate the rate of warming today, it actually follows the high emission carbon scenario projections, which is very scary. But of course that assumes business, quote, quote, business as usual, which a lot of scientists don't think are going to happen anymore, because business is not as usual when we're trying to do our best to reduce our carbon emissions. So basically I said to the kids, this is the worst case scenario if we do nothing, basically. But it was very, very useful, and that's just a way I use the downloaded data. Okay, welcome back everybody. We're just waiting for everyone to roll back in out of their breakout rooms. Anybody like to just give a quick little bit of feedback about what they talked about? And you can either pop that in the chat, perhaps your number one thing that you talked about, or the number one nugget of inspiration or idea that you came up with. Please, if you wanna respond verbally, do stick your hand up and I can go to you. So while you're typing something or considering putting your hand up to say something verbally, I sat with Heather and Shelley in a group, and we had some really good ideas. We looked at downloading the data and what we could do with that. We respected the fact that the data is pretty scary and there's a lot of it that comes up, but because it's almost in its raw format, but it's exceptionally powerful and you can do a lot of things with the downloaded data. But the thing that we talked about most of all was the ability to, what we could do is get the students to investigate whether there was a difference between energy use or electricity use between maritime and continental climates. So perhaps doing some kind of jigsaw activity with the students, where you get a group of students investigating the continental areas of Europe and another group of students investigating the maritime areas, and seeing if there was a difference in electricity demand in that respect. And of course that would foment a really good discussion about whether climate was the main or the only, or was there other factors involved in driving energy, electricity demand and things like that. So that's one thing that we come up with. Anybody from any other group like to stick their hand up or say something? Right. And what I really like about that, and Shelley, and what I really like about that idea too, is it's an exceptionally good example of how climate and energy can mix together. Because that's one of the main functions of our tool, is not just showing about climate change and how energy change, stuff like that, not as separate entities, but also see how they can be interdependent on each other as well. So perfect. Great. Yeah, AS level. I can see the older 17-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds doing this kind of thing. A lot of investigation work. Okay, excellent. There's nobody else sticking their hand up or contributing there. So let's move on to the last activity of the workshop. Okay. So to finish off, we are going to enter into just a little bit of a period of reflection here. So this is where we're going to load up our Padlets now. If you missed, for any reason, the Padlet invite, most of you got it, thank you, and signed up, which was absolutely fantastic. But if you go to this bit.ly link here, if you didn't accept the invite, then you may need to just quickly sign up to Padlet in order to access this. But if you did, you should be able to get onto it just by logging in. So what we're going to do now is just a little bit of time for us to reflect on not just the tool, but also the workshop itself. So if I now if I keep those prompts on the right, if I do this carefully, like this, there we go. Right, so what we've got here is that we've got something called Padlet, and this is actually pretty well known already amongst quite a few educators and teachers as a way of communicating different ideas and collaborating different ideas and things like that. So it's basically post-it notes, digital post-it notes. So you can move these around, or at least I can. You can't, because I've restricted your access, which is another thing you can do with the students if you don't want them to accidentally delete cards or move things around, and you can restrict their access. So what you can do here is set this up here. You can connect them together. Those of you who joined earlier pre-workshop, you'll notice that I put some audio on there. You can put some video on there as well. So if you're going to set this as a remote activity for students, you can have a little video saying, "Hi everybody, thanks for coming. You know, this is what I'd like you to do," and you can explain things verbally or visually. Do that too. And you can also do a rating system here as well. So you can see that somebody's already going around rating things. I'm going to delete this one because we know that the Zoom poll system failed to work on this occasion, so I will automatically give that a 0 in my evaluation. Never mind. Right, so this is what I'd like you to do. So this is, for the next 10 minutes, this is free reign. Respond to as little or as much as whatever you can in whatever depth you wish to respond to, okay? So the way you do this is that you click all of these cards here with a star. What you do here is I'd like you to just rate these. So timings. So for this particular workshop, the length of each component activity that you've experienced today, just give that a simple rating. So 5 means, Kit, your timing was perfect. I felt it was a good pace, blah, 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 5 stars. Or give it 1 star if you think, oh my God, Kit, I feel like I've been run over by a bus or something. You know, be honest, please. Evaluation's important. So whenever you see a star, give it a rating out of 5. So here, the interactivity of the workshop, the content of the workshop, you know, and as you get to use Padlet, give Padlet a bit of a rating as well as used there. Zoom itself, what we're using right now, give that a rating. And you are more than welcome to give comments just by clicking here, there. So feedback on the workshop itself. If we scroll down here to the left, just get rid of that because that's in the way. So now we're talking about the tool itself. So the applicability of the tool in education. It's the same again here. Wherever you see that star, give it a quick rate. If you can rate things with stars, at the very least, that would be excellent. So before you log off in 13 minutes time, if you can at very at least rate all the things with stars, that would be very helpful. And then if you can comment, bonus. So the accessibility of the tool, how it relates as a geographical information system, relevance to learning. And if we scroll over here to the right, very quick fire questions. These are all rating questions. So, you know, how would you rate how the tool looks? How would you rate how the menu works? How you would rate the map, downloading data, educational resources, etc., etc. And then finally, there are just 2 general things here. If you came across bugs, just give us a shout here about what you thought if you came across some bugs. The current version 1.33, we have ironed out a lot of bugs to get to this point. When we launched version 1, we were aware that there was still lots of stuff going on. We've ironed out a lot of them, but we know that there are some bugs still out there. So if when using the tool a bit earlier, you came across, oh, that's not working exactly as it should be, just drop it down there. If you have any general thoughts, stick them there. So we'll give you another 5 to 10 minutes on this, and then we will check out. So again, if you want to say something verbally, please do. Raise your hand and we can do that. Thank you so much. And also what I think, speaking, you know, given the COVID-19 situation as well, you know, your honest feedback regarding the workshop itself is not just vital for us going forward or how we do our engagements in forward, but also kind of gives the ability for us to turn around and say, well, you know, if we're going to be doing online working, online learning for the foreseeable future, these are the, you know, when I did this workshop, regarding the Edu Demo, these are the things that worked better than others, or just bear in mind that if you do this, make sure that this happens, or this doesn't happen, or you've got this ready, or whatever. So we're all helping each other out here in the circumstances that we find ourselves in at the moment. Right. If you are ready to move on, we still got 2 minutes before I'm going to ask you to move on. But if you are ready to move on now, and we can go back into Mentimeter now, and I'm going to ask you to start the checkout process. So if I just go back into Mentimeter, and I forward to the next slide for you there. So now we're going to start the checkout process. So same again, www.menti.com with the code being 728902, and you can see that the question there, question 2, will link back to question 1. Crikey, was it only 2 hours ago? Doesn't it feel like a lot longer ago? So 2 hours ago, roughly, I asked you, how confident were you in using the C3S Edu Demo at this point in time, at the start of the workshop? I'm not going to display the results on the screen just yet. I mean, we're adults, so I don't think you're going to be influenced by other people's responses anyway. But what I'll do, I'll hang back for just a couple of minutes, and then I'll put the results up on the screen there. So how confident are you now in using the C3S Edu Demo at the end of this workshop? Bearing in mind, I really have taken you on a whirlwind tour of almost all of its functionality. And of course, in one sitting with students or your outreach, you're kind of unlikely to kind of do everything in one sitting anyway. So it's just, we've shown you the potential of the thing. And then the third question, because there were 3 in total if we count the one at the start. The third question, which I'll move on to shortly, is which aspect of the Edu Demo are you most or least confident about using? Right. Okay, so we're almost there for time. No problem, Carmen, but thank you. If you wouldn't mind, Carmen, if you could just perhaps just type the number, so 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on the chat, that would be fantastic. If anybody else is having a problem with Menti, just by all means, just stick the number down there on the chat. So 1 is not confident at all. 5 is very confident and creative. Okay, so the next question is here. Which aspect of the C3S Edu Demo are you most or least confident about? So that's the last thing we're going to put on there. Thank you very much, Olga, for your feedback. So as you're finishing off, we've got one more slide after this to finish our checkout. So what have we demonstrated? Let's come off the Edu Demo just for a sec and talk about remote online workshops. So what have we demonstrated today? We've demonstrated the use of Mentimeter as a way of polling your students, getting their opinion. The free version does quite a lot already. So, but if you were to purchase it, then you'd do a lot more. But the free version does allow you to do your polls, does allow you to give feedback. The other thing which is really, really good actually is word clouds. So you ask the students a question, and then the most common word responses appear bigger on the screen as a word cloud. So that's a very, very good thing of Mentimeter. The other thing we've done as well was Zoom. Well, we tried to do the Zoom polls. That didn't work because there's a bug in the system where if there is more than one person signed into the host account, it doesn't allow the polls to launch for some reason. So that's a bug with Zoom. That's nothing our end, but at least you can run polls via Zoom if you're the only one running a host account. You got breakout rooms, so where you basically it's online group work. We had some limitations. I mean, when I joined the group, I stayed with group 2. The reason why is because they had some technical difficulties where they were unable to share their screen. So of course they're going to be limited by everybody's individual technical issues. But you do have Zoom breakout rooms, and then you have Padlet as well. So which is basically your online brainstorming, sticky notes. And for a free version, it's actually exceptionally powerful. So you can put videos on there, sounds, pictures, get people to rate on them. So that's that there. Right. So let's finish up. I'll leave this active. So by all means, continue with that. Let's get the actual one up, Kit. Right. Okay, let's finish off. So how are you feeling post-workshop? And at the very, very least, I'd just like everybody to state a temperature in the chat box. So how are you feeling post-workshop? So if you're feeling very frazzled and a little bit, then you can type climate chaos some way. Or maybe you're feeling a bit flustered, a bit hot, lukewarm. Or if you're feeling, this was, you know, I'm completely cool as ice. Excellent, wonderful, feeling great. So pretty chill. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so how are you feeling post-workshop? Anything from climate, like for me, I feel a bit hot. Not in a negative sense, just that running these things is actually quite, I'll be honest, running these things is quite intense. That you got to have almost like have octopus arms, and you know, I've got 3 screens on because I've got what you're seeing, my operation screen, and I've got my personal laptop, which is like what you are seeing. So I feel a bit hot, but in terms of the outcomes of this workshop, I'm very pleased. I'm pretty fair. I'm somewhere between fairly chill and cool as ice. Sunny beach. So, okay, we'll classify that, Shelley, as pretty chill, like the sunny beach feel. I love it. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, based on where you said you were located. Okay, so do continue to check out. It's a good way of it's a good way of grounding yourself. So use one of these quirky terms to check out, please, if you haven't done so already. Climate chaos, bit hot, lukewarm, fairly chill, cool as ice, or maybe your own version of some people have been putting on the chat. Well, thank you so much for joining me this Saturday afternoon, or whatever time you are in your time zone. If you're so enthusiastic, and you're really, maybe you already have been, and you've been started to do things with your students, you plan to do things with students, and you start producing resources for yourself, once you've made something, just send it to me. And then what we would love to do, we'd love to kind of collate all these things, and then we can share them amongst other people coming about. And of course, we'll make sure that your name's credited with, you know, this is a resource from John, from Heidi, from Heather, from Caroline, you know, whatever. If you've got any comments, questions, or queries, you know, there's our email address, there's the website of the demonstrator. And, you know, please do, whenever you use the tool, take a picture of yourself using it, or whatever, the back of kids' heads using it, and use that hashtag. It really does help when you share these things. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to end the workshop and stop the recording in about 30 seconds. But if anybody wants to hang back and wants to check out with me personally, or just wants to have a chat with me personally, I'm very happy to hang back for another 10-15 minutes afterwards. So stay safe, everybody. Keep practicing your social distancing and isolation and whatnot, and we'll all ride through this by supporting each other. And I just wish you all the very best of health and the best of wishes going in the future, and hope to hear from you in soon. So cheerio, everybody, and take care.